Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and hey, we have Mr. Community Organizer with us today, Bob Just in the house, and kind of getting a final recap and update on what's happening tomorrow.
Amazing, isn't it?
Tomorrow is May 1st.
Tomorrow's May 1st, and it's birthday.
And birthday. Now, you've put this together. You've been doing this in Grants Pass this year.
This is our fourth year.
Fourth year.
Yeah. We started at New Hope Christian School just to start to test the model, and then next year we did 2 private schools, St. Anne's and New Hope, and 2 public schools, Madrona and Jerome Prairie, and then we then expanded out to Grants Pass High last year, and then this year it just exploded. We did 7 schools last year, 15 schools this year. We had to turn down 4 schools. Next year, I hope we're going to raise enough money and get enough that we'll do them all the schools.
Birth-Day, what is that?
Birth-Day.org, that's our fundraising site, or at least that's their link now. We celebrate everyone's birthday on the same day, and we serve the kids ice cream sundaes, and we go into the schools. The moms do the elementary and middle schools, and the dads, concerned fathers against crime, and go into the high schools. And what's fascinating is how the kids respond, especially at the high school level. We were unprepared for that. I mean, we knew the little kids would like it. We thought the middle schools would like it. But then when you get into high school, how are the kids going to react? And we're out there with law enforcement and firefighters this year. We got lined up. And serving them ice cream sundaes and wishing them happy birthday and saying, you know, I'm not going to be around when your birthday happens, but I'm glad you're alive. Our motto is, for the kids, we have big signs that say, there's never been another you, and there never will be again. And so we say, you're unique. So what are you going to do with that uniqueness? What are you going to do? Too many kids drop out. Too many kids are depressed. Too many kids don't feel they have much future, and you know there is a suicide problem. So you try to impress on the kids that the community cares about them.
Wow, been very successful, and again this year, how are you doing on the fundraising? You still got to buy some ice cream?
A little over $4,000 that we've raised, and we'd like to raise $5,500, but you know we're good. If we raise another $1,000, we'll be in the arena. There are expenses that individuals are stepping forward and saying, like with signs, which is not part of our budget. We just want a corporate guy, a friend of what we do, said, I'll take care of the signs. So we had 15 signs saying there's never been another you and there never will be again. So the kids will get that message.
Well, what a great deal.
We definitely need help, though.
You need some volunteers? What do they do?
We're pretty good on volunteers. We're doing pretty well. I like to go into Grants Pass High with 40 men, you know, concerned fathers. I think we have about that range. Hidden Valley and North Valley are smaller schools. North Valley just asked us to come over there a week ago, and we made the decision that we were going to do it, and it looks like everything's okay. All the team captains, you know, each school has a captain and a co-captain, and they're all running around getting their supplies, and we did a massive order from Costco, and so it's...
All right. If people want to help, get involved, maybe support it, go to birth-day.org.
Right.
And you can. And tomorrow's the big day, so be praying for them. What a great opportunity! All of this is being done. Dads are serving the ice cream.
Yeah, dads are serving the ice cream to the high schools, and moms are serving the ice creams to the primary and elementary and middle schools. And I think it's the fundraiser closes at midnight tonight. So we got today.
Okay.
Because I know this show plays more than once.
Yeah. So birth-day.org. All right. I want to come back to fathers, the subject of dads, because somebody made the comment. A big part of what happened in Baltimore is a lack of traditional families, fathers not being around. And you can play that out across the culture as a whole. Some of the social things that we're dealing with today primarily stem from the fact that we just don't have dads.
You know, Perry, the book written by a famous conservative sociologist a couple of years ago, Charles Murray, is called Coming Apart. And he talks about the breakdown of the family and how it'll affect the future of the country. Now, just a month ago, considered liberal sociologist Robert Putnam, who's a Harvard sociologist, came out with a book, Our Kids. And let me read you what he says, a little bit of what he says. He says, children who grow up without their biological father perform worse in standardized tests, earn lower grades, and stay in school for fewer years, regardless of race or class. They are also more likely to demonstrate behavioral problems such as shyness and aggression, which we're seeing in Baltimore, and psychological problems such as increased anxiety and depression. They're more likely to have sex earlier and become young single parents, recreating the cycle. And he goes on to say, and remember, this is a liberal sociologist, he goes on to say, I want us to start a movement. He said, this is the core challenge facing our country. If we don't fix this problem, we are not going to be one country. And because there's just going to be social breakdown. And unfortunately, the government will try to come up with government solutions. And really the solution is the churches, the decent people in each community that want to reach kids. And we've found a macro way to do it by being a community family. And General Boycott, who's Executive Vice President of Family Research Council, did a video greeting to our group. And in it, he says that we broke the code on it, because what we're doing is, instead of trying to do one family at a time, which we've all got to try to do. Right. It's a ministry for anyone who's able to help one family. But the beauty of Concerned Families is we try to do it as a community family, and birthday is part of our strategy. You reach into the schools and you let them know, the kids know they're appreciated, they're loved, we're glad they're alive, and we're excited to see what they're going to do with their future. And an ice cream sundae kind of happy birthday sums that up.
Wow. And the response has been phenomenal. I know you've had some dads that were serving ice cream to kids, chocolate, and actually the kids responded and said...
Right. One child told one of our guys that it was the best day, last year at Grants Pass High, that it was the best day of her life. And it hit that...
You're talking an ice cream sundae at noontime at a high school.
Right.
That's the best day of her life.
Right. What is that about? What is going on there?
Wow.
And I believe it's, as you always say, we're spiritual beings on a fleshly walk.
Yeah.
And she's obviously comes from a broken, troubled background the way I did, and so I sympathize and understand that. And she walked in and she saw these 40 solid men caring for them, not asking for anything in return, appreciating them with a happy birthday wish. She might not have any birthday celebrated, for different reasons, but the point is that it meant something to her that shocked us. And I told, one of our guys was telling our members about that. I told you this story a few weeks ago. And while he was relaying the story about this girl, he broke down in tears, because it affected him so deeply to think that this little bit of kindness, but remember, representing Father, and not just one guy or two guys, but 40 guys, that it meant that much to her, bro. He was deeply, deeply touched. So it's not just helping the kids, it's helping us too.
All right, it's all going to happen tomorrow, primarily in Josephine County, 14 schools.
Yeah, for now, we're hoping it'll expand out.
You never know.
You never know.
This has grown from 1 to 14 over these last 4 years. And so let me encourage you, first of all, just kind of make a little mark, put this down on your prayer calendar, pray for them tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be, this is where you're witnessing through love. You're witnessing through just touching these kids,
Right.
And
Thank you, Perry.
I'm glad to see a lot of churches and the men from churches get involved in this. If you want to help, another $1,000 or so of ice cream will go a long way, plus all the toppings. Right?
A huge difference, really a huge difference. I mean, Parkway Christian Center has jumped in with a big donation, so has First Christian Church in Grants Pass. There have been generous individual donations, people saying, oh, let me help you make that happen. And so it's really impactful.
Okay, so what you do is you go to birth-day.org, and you can go online throughout this day and help them. And then tomorrow is going to be the big day. It primarily happens at noon, right?
Right. It's a long lunch hour. That's what we tell the volunteers. This is pretty much a long lunch hour. So the smaller high schools have only one lunch session. Grants Pass High has 2 lunch sessions. So but it's a long lunch hour in terms of getting from work to where you're going. Of course, we have retirees working with us too. But it's just amazing. Hundreds of, mostly Christians, hundreds, all in one moment. The kids get served.
Oh, that's great. Well, Bob, thanks for what you do and your passion for doing it. Got a lot of other things I want to talk to you about, but that's another show for another day.
Another show for another day.
All right, birth-day.org if you want to help. And today's the day to do it because all of this happens on May 1st, tomorrow. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Perry.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back, and delighted to have with us in the studio today Jennifer Mylenek, is that right? Forgive me.
Very good.
Executive Director of CASA, C-A-S-A of Jackson County, and they do a wonderful service in our community. But we want to talk about a big topic and an event. You got the Kentucky Derby fundraising event coming up. I want to get into that, but you also want to deal with the subject of child abuse. Wow. Wow, where do we go with this? How big is this problem in Southern Oregon?
Well, in Jackson County, it's bigger than most people realize. Last year, 2014, there were 700 children with founded cases of abuse and neglect. The year started already with 300 children in care. And you have to remember, those are the cases that are founded. Yeah. And it's pretty difficult to justify opening a case of child abuse and neglect. So there's probably a lot more kids out there.
All right, so what is CASA and how do you address this issue?
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, and we have an amazing core of volunteers who become each child's advocate while they go through this process. CASA's advise the court as to the child's current safety, what their needs are, if they're medical or educational needs, and they make sure the court knows the whole story of what's going on for that child so they can get to permanency and safety quickly.
I can't imagine some of the stories you've heard and seen. This got to be a real traumatic time for a child. So how do you comfort the child and yet get the information you need?
You know what's interesting is the children almost right away, if they're old enough, recognize that the CASA is the only unpaid person to walk in the door and be there for them.
Really?
Because there's lots of people in their lives at this time, but they're all paid to be there. Not that their intentions aren't great, but they are all paid to be there and they have other cases that they're managing. The CASA's only focus is that child, and they do a wonderful job of getting to know the child and gaining the child's trust.
Now, you obviously train a lot for the people that work there, but one of the tough decisions that have to be made is, you know, this child isn't safe here.
Yes.
So what do you do?
If we feel a child is not safe in a placement, we call a review hearing, we call the courts, we call child welfare, we may even call law enforcement. So we make sure that that child is safe. And most of the time, once they're removed from their parents, most of the time they are safe. It's whether or not the parents can go through substance abuse recovery and regain custody of their children. That's where we're really looking closely. Has the parent really done what they need to do? Is this the right solution for this child to go home or not?
Wow, tough decisions. The Kentucky Derby fundraising event.
Yes.
How can we help you with that?
Well, we just want people to know that we are fundraising all the time.
Yeah.
It's,
we all?
Yes, everybody is, and the community is wonderful here. They do support the work that we do, and the Kentucky Derby is one of our events this Saturday. Afternoon event, and everybody's wearing hats.
Oh, of course,
yeah.
Yes. Where is it?
It's at the Rogue Valley Country Club.
Okay.
It starts at 12:30.
Okay.
It's $75 a ticket. There's lots of food, lots of activities, lots of funny money, horse race betting.
Why not? Yeah. Well, and all this goes to help you guys do, and yet you work with a volunteer staff. I mean, this is kind of interesting how this all functions.
Yes, we had in 2014 about 180 or so volunteer CASAs. We have a staff of 9. There's a lot of court documentation, discovery, navigation, compliance. It's complicated work, but every time a CASA joins us and goes through training, they're assigned another CASA called a peer coordinator to help them, to walk alongside of them, to get through that, certainly that initial difficulty of understanding everything that's going on.
Yeah, I would imagine it's real eye-opening at the beginning. So quite a bit of training goes on, right?
Yes, 40 hours of core training, and then CASAs complete an additional 12 hours a year of in-service training.
Do you need more volunteers?
We do. We always do. We need probably 100 more volunteers.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I understand the need, but why you need it's the problem, I guess.
It is a problem, and there's a lot of wonderful organizations here working on prevention, but even with their efforts towards prevention of children coming into this child welfare system, the numbers are still growing.
Do you work under a umbrella of confidentiality?
Yes.
All right, so if a child tells you something, can the court force that out of you?
If a child, we always let the child know that if they disclose something to us, we cannot keep it a secret.
Okay.
And and sometimes that happens. The child is removed maybe because the parents are doing drugs, and then a month later the child discloses additional abuse to the CASA, and the CASA must report that. And we want to make sure the child gets help.
Well, thank God you're there. What happens when a child is removed? Will the child ever go back to that situation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, if the parents, lots of the cases for removal here are due to substance abuse, so the children are being neglected.
Oh, okay.
And if the parents are, lots of these parents have not been parented well themselves. This is second, third generation or more. And if the parents are willing and want to be good parents and want to recover, there's programs for them to go into where they can even live with their children while they're in, close proximity to counselors and things like that. So they can go through recovery and remain a family or get their children back. And when that happens, it's terrific. And when that happens, if there's a CASA, the CASA's the parent's cheerleader too.
That's wonderful. How has this changed you?
Oh my goodness, it's the calling of my life. I worked in the financial industry for many years, and I used to go home at night and say, who have I helped, really? Have I saved a life? Have I done anything? And coming to CASA, the journey that I went through to come to CASA has made the difference in my life. We can't help everybody, but I know every day that I go to work, I've helped somebody, somehow.
What a ministry.
It is. It
You know,
is.
I mean, that's basically, you're doing God's work.
Yeah, without him, none of this would be happening, I have to tell you.
Yeah, I can't, as a lay counselor, I've heard enough to know that I would never know what you guys know and experience, but the need is that great. And you're talking how many cases a year?
We served almost 600 children last year, and we only served 60% of the total children that were there and could have had a CASA.
And those are the ones you know of.
And those are the ones we know of,
that have been reported.
There's lots of times child welfare will go out multiple times on calls to a family and not be able to see any evidence of the abuse or the neglect. And yet they know it's happening. But without that evidence, they can't open a case.
Wow. How do the children receive treatment? Let's say they're there now, they're under your care, or at least under your auspices. How do you get them help?
Well, we look to see what do they need. It's until you get to know a child, you're not really sure, what does this child need? Sometimes they're delayed in school because they haven't been to school. The parent hasn't taken them to school. So the CASA's in the school right away, working with an IEP, making sure that they understand that school can be a great place to go and it can be a fun experience. Sometimes we know the child needs a certain type of counseling or therapy, and we make sure they get it. These children most always need dental help, and the CASA's the one who's going to sit on the phone until the dentist makes an appointment, because under the Oregon Health Plan, or whatever they call it these days, that can be pretty arduous.
Well, I want to encourage you, if you feel tugged like a lot of people are in this area, and looking for something to do and get trained in, you may want to get a hold of Jennifer in that area. But you can go to Jackson County CASA, CASA.org, probably the best way to connect. But let me encourage you to go to the Kentucky Derby fundraising event this weekend. It'll be Saturday at the Country Club. Starts at noon, you say?
Starts at 12:30.
12:30. $75 for a ticket. All of this is going to go to help this program. I can't say enough. I've talked to some of your volunteers in the past, and some of the stories limited what they obviously can say. But more importantly is the level of the problem in Jackson County. I mean, when you're talking 600 cases plus in Jackson County a year. No wonder we have people like Hearts with the Mission and things like that, because it's a real issue.
It is a real issue. And thank goodness we have these organizations. All of us, we're like an ecosystem here.
Yeah, right.
We all work together, and we can't lose, not one of us can go away, because there'll be a big crack if we do.
Wow. Jennifer, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, again, Jackson County, CASA.org, JacksonCountyCASA.org. Or more, is that where they get a ticket too?
They can, yes.
Or call you, is that easier?
Yes, or 734-CASA.
Okay, 724-CASA.
734.
Oh, 734, I'm sorry, 734-CASA, and get a ticket for the Kentucky Derby fundraiser this weekend. Thank you, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you very
Blessings
much.
on you and your entire staff.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back, and what a delight for us to have back with us today on Focus Today, Laurie Cardoza-Moore. She's president and the founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations. And boy, I just love her passion and all the work that she does, from monitoring textbooks and, most importantly, working with the state of Israel, and even more information you can possibly imagine. Let me give you her website, because you're going to find this to be a terrific resource. It's pjtn.org, and there's so much there. Hi, Laurie, good to see you. And by the way, congratulations to see your movie got another award.
Yeah. Good morning, Perry. We're really excited about that. You know, every time we receive these prestigious awards, this really just helps to further our message about Israel's rights to her ancient homeland. And so we're honored. It's our 5th one. And so we're expecting a lot more people to come on board, more Christians to tune in and come to our website to learn more about our films. But it's a tremendous honor, and to God be the glory, because, you know, this message is so critical. It's so timely right now with everything happening around the world. And so we're just honored to be able to have been able to produce it, and to see the tremendous success that we're having, airing it all over the world.
Congratulations. But the problem still exists. The world seems to be still turning against Israel. In fact, it seems to be accelerating. Give us an update.
Yeah, well, it certainly has, Perry, and it's hard to even fathom. You know, you look at what's happening with Israel, and you see the growing threat and the destabilization happening in the Middle East as a result of our administration's policies. It's quite frightening. You see the administration aligning itself with Iran now, and trying to negotiate some type of deal that, you know, basically threatens not just Israel's existence, but the existence of the free world, the Western world. You know, we know that their missiles can hit the eastern coast of the United States of America. And instead of us listening and being advised by the Israeli government, the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, this administration wants to thumb its nose and insult the Prime Minister, and instead dictate to the Prime Minister what we're going to do, what the United States is going to do with regards to Iran. It's quite frightening. And if you look at, you know, how our policies, even our relationship with Turkey and Erdogan. But if you look at these policies all combined, and you see not just the growing rise of global genocidal anti-Semitism that, of course, is being blamed on the fact that Israel actually exists in their ancient homeland, but we're also witnessing the slaughter of Christians all over the Middle East, throughout the Middle East. And I fear, Perry, that we're going to see more and more of what happened in Oklahoma to that woman who had her head cut off at work, happening here in the United States of America. In fact, WND last week actually put out a statement late at night, one night, stating that even our administration says that an attack by ISIS in the United States is imminent.
Wow. So what is BDS legislation?
Okay, so the BDS movement is the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement. And you may remember that there are a lot of companies, even Christian denominations, and I'll start there because that's important to our audience, but I'm going to broaden the scope. The last summer, the Presbyterian Church passed a resolution by a narrow margin to boycott, divest, or divest funds, their stock, from companies that do business with Israel, in penalty for Israel trying to protect her people, and not just Jews. But remember, in Israel, there are Muslims, there are Christians who live in Israel proper as well. And so you have the nation of Israel who is trying to protect itself, and now it's being threatened by boycotts and divestments and sanctions by world leaders. We saw it with the Presbyterian Church. We've seen similar incidents within the Episcopal and the Lutheran and the Methodist churches as well. And now we even see a movement within evangelical Christians to buy into the false narrative, or heresy, I call it. But they bought into this notion that Israel is occupying Palestinian land, when the Bible is clear that the land belongs to the Jewish people, that God made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants forever. And it happens, and that covenant, one component of that covenant is the land. God told Abraham, see all the land I'm giving you? I'm giving it to you and your descendants forever. Well, the last time I checked, forever is forever. And so, unfortunately, we see the church buying into this narrative. We see European leaders who are trying to sanction Israel, or at the United Nations, boycott products coming out of Israel into Europe. And fortunately, this week, one of the bright spots that came out of Washington, if there is one, but one of the bright spots came out of Congress when they introduced a bill calling on the United States to challenge the European leaders and these European companies from sanctioning or boycotting Israeli products, and basically threatening them that if you do this, then you can't count on the United States to support you. So that was a huge move as well.
Laurie, what makes this so interesting? First of all, I think the Presbyterian Church USA is primarily the ones doing that, and I know that there are other segments of the Methodists and the Episcopal Church and others. I'll do a show like this. I'll interview others who are very pro-Israel, and I will get emails from evangelicals in our area that says that that the church is the new Israel, and Israel just all the promises don't apply. That the argument. But what surprises me is that this anti-Semitic movement among evangelicals, or at least the neutralization of Israel among evangelicals, is growing. What's behind this?
Yeah. Well, it's because the proponents of the Palestinian cause have convinced the Christian community to buy into their heresy. And you cannot base their position on the text of Scripture. They will tell you, oh no, now that Jesus Christ is here and he came and he rose again, now the Jews rejected the Messiah, and so because of that, all the blessings and all the blessings come to the church, but all the curses go to the Jews. And this is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, all a Christian has to do is open up their Bibles to Romans 9 through 11. Paul said God's gift and calling to Israel is irrevocable. There is no scripture in the Old Testament or in the New Testament that says that the Lord came to abolish the commandments, to abolish the Torah. He said, I came to uphold them. He said that in the New Testament. And so to uphold something doesn't mean to abolish it. And so the covenant is not abolished. But see, what's happening, Perry, is this doctrine and tradition, it is not biblical. And if anybody wants to argue that, I challenge them to email me the scriptures that they're basing their belief on, and let's have a discussion, because I can show them more scriptures that say that God is going to regather. He said that he would sift Israel through a sieve and he would scatter her among the nations of the world. But in the last days, he will regather her. And he said, not one kernel of Israel will fall to the ground. He will bring them back from the four corners of the earth. And unfortunately, in Christianity, we have handed down from generation to generation this heresy that because the Jews rejected the Messiah, that now all the blessings go to the Christian church. And what we forget to remember is that it says, excuse me, in Romans, that God is going to, that the blindness in part, excuse me, has come to Israel so that all the Gentiles could be gathered back in or gathered in. And that's critically important. And so when Christians try to make the argument that God's gift is over, that he's rejected the Jewish people, and now the blessings belong to the church, it's not based in any biblical truth. None at all. It's heresy. And I would warn Christians who have bought into that, you need to study your Bible yourself, not listen to what some man teaches you or tells you. We are supposed to study to show ourselves approved. We can't just go to church on Sunday, sit in the pews, be fed, and then not go back and read the scriptures. And the other problem too, in fact, we're going to be in Israel next month, starting production of our next documentary film on the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. And we're going to be interviewing a Greek Orthodox pastor, and his name is Father Nadaf. He lives in Nazareth. This man has been one of the most outspoken proponents for Israel, and he's calling the church, you've got to study the Bible from a Hebraic or Aramaic perspective and get our heads out of the Greco-Romanism that has been pervasive within Christianity for centuries. That's why we are where we are. We take in the scriptures, we don't study them from the Hebrew understanding or the Aramaic understanding in the New Testament, and then we buy into this Greco-Roman narrative that doesn't even fit the culture or the time or even who Yeshua or Jesus was. He was Jewish.
I mean, that's significant that you're going to have a Greek Orthodox priest get involved in this. I mean, for the most part, they stay neutral because of the history of the persecution of the Orthodox. But for him to speak out, that's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yes. And you know what else he's doing? He's telling the Christian community in Israel that their sons and daughters must serve in the IDF alongside of their Jewish brethren. And this is unheard of to happen. But he is one of the leading voices now that's coming forth to expose this issue. And I think it's so important because, Perry, we are living in the last days. There is no doubt. And if we don't study our Bibles to show ourselves approved, but to put the scriptures in context and stop reading the back end of the book, but go back to the beginning. That's one thing that always amazes me. You know, I speak to Christians and I ask them, how much time do you spend in the first half of the book in the Old Testament? They said, well, you know, we're New Testament Christians, so we study the New Testament. I said, well, if you don't know where you've come from, then how can you know where you're going? And so it's so important that when we study, we pray, we ask the Lord for his wisdom, for Holy Spirit revelation, to be able to interpret the scriptures. And I encourage your listeners to get a Bible that was written in Hebrew and translated into English, so you get the closest English translation from the Hebrew. I'm telling you, Perry, when I started studying the Bible from that perspective and using that Bible and seeing how even the Aramaic there's a New Testament Aramaic Bible that I love by Rabbi Andrew Gabriel Roth. It's so enlightening to read the New Testament from a Aramaic to English translation and to see some of the nuances that we miss in our Bibles. So anyhow, so that's my heart's cry to the church.
Well,
it's
passionately felt, Laurie. Let me take a quick break here. We'll come back. I want to come back to the BDS legislation. Two questions I have for that. Where did it come from and where is it going? Because is the United States at a national level moving towards the possibility of placing sanctions on Israel? We'll be right back with Laurie Cardoza-Moore in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and always a delight and an honor to have with us Laurie Cardoza-Moore. She's the president and the founder of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and her website, pjtn.org, is a tremendous resource, the least of which get a copy of the Israel Indivisible, the movie that continues to win awards. And now part 2 of that probably will start production here shortly. But this thing is terrific, and we've shown it on the Dove television network. We got great response from it. And you can go to her website and get your own copy at pjtn.org. And again, congratulations, Laurie. By the way, while we're on the movie subjects for a moment, you're going over to start kind of like a sequel to it. What do you hope to accomplish with this one?
Well, the next one is to expose the whole boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. But we're producing this one for the millennial generation. And not only is it going to be produced for a secular audience, but also with our Christian children in mind, and Jewish children. You know, this whole boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement is gaining steam on our universities around the world. And we've heard about the incidents where there's anti-Semitic attacks, there's swastikas sprayed on the AEPI, fraternity house, Jewish fraternity houses, college campuses. So these students are being targeted with this whole BDS narrative, accusing Israel of apartheid South Africa tactics. So the next film is really going to be focused on the millennial generation and exposing the hypocrisy of this whole narrative. And it's interesting because I've been doing the research, looking for people to interview and experts, and you know, some of the amazing technology that coming out of Israel, like in medicine, in high tech, in agriculture. It's amazing how our world benefits. You know, God told Abraham that he would be a blessing to the nations of the world, and all the nations of the world would bless themselves through Abraham. That's Genesis 12:3. And if you think about it, look at how the world is blessing themselves by Israel because of its technology. They have a state-of-the-art facility at Ariel University in Judea and Samaria. The world calls it the West Bank, but their university is one of the leading universities for cancer research in multiple myeloma. And so it's amazing to see how the world is truly benefiting, just as the Lord said they would. And so we're going to target the universities. We're going to expose the churches, the denominations that have gotten behind the BDS movement, like the Presbyterian Church and others. We're going to focus on Hobby Lobby and Hobby Lobby's involvement in spreading this false narrative as well, which is appalling. I can't remember if we've talked about this before on your show, Perry, but Hobby Lobby, Mark Green, is funding documentary films that are propaganda. They're pro-Palestinian propaganda, and they are purposed to challenge the narrative that we are communicating from a biblical perspective. So it's important that we're going to use this to reach our children, because If we don't educate and inform our children, then who are we going to pass the baton to?
Laurie, do you sense, it is obvious our president, in my opinion, just my opinion, seems to be personally himself anti-Semitic. His policies certainly are leaning towards that. And now that he's in the twilight of his administration, almost in kamikaze mode, do you see him placing sanctions on Israel?
Well, you know, there was talk about sanctions back in December, Perry, and we haven't seen anything yet. And as soon as he came out, a couple days later, 48 members of Congress sent him a letter challenging him on those sanctions. So thank God that we still have a Congress that is representing we the people. This administration, you know, I was in Israel back in March, and we were, I was attending a conference on Sephardic Jewish ancestry. And I spoke to the average Israeli while I was there. I spoke to taxi drivers, waiters, and restaurants. I spoke with people on the street. And this was, of course, right after, like not even a week after the elections in Israel. And, of course, it had gone public that this administration had millions of dollars trying to overthrow Bibi in this recent election, and some of the tactics that Obama was involved in. And it was amazing because the Israelis, all of them that I interviewed, said, we don't like your government, but we like the American people. And that's such an encouragement because the Israelis on the street know that Americans stand with Israel. And they know that because they see our Congress. And that's why making phone calls to our congressional members and our senators in Washington, D.C., when these issues come to the forefront, is critically important, because if these elected officials do not hear from us, then our government won't represent we the people. And that is one of the reasons I believe now Obama is walking back what he said. You know, recently he made the comment that if Israel doesn't support a two-state solution, you know, this was right after the elections, then Israel's not going to be able to count on the United States at the United Nations. And, of course, now we're seeing information leaking out from the White House that, you know, that the United States will support Israel at the United Nations. But that comes as a direct result of we the people contacting our elected officials and letting them know, not on our watch.
Well, that's wonderful. And I think, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. I sent you a draft that we've been working on at this end of a national petition asking, I realize we're not going to get everything we want, but if there was at least a censure of the administration on his Mideast policies and his treatment of Israel, at least it sends a message that he's not representing us.
Yes, and you know something that is extremely important. In fact, I think that the Congress needs to go all the way to impeachment. And a lot of people just say that's never going to happen. It doesn't matter whether they'll impeach him or not. But what will happen is we will be able to educate the American people through the process of what this administration has done. You're exactly right, Perry. Our policies with this administration have so destabilized the region to the point Israel is now concerned about its own safety, its own security, its own well-being in this land. But now even Christians, look at what Obama has done. Obama's hands have blood all over them. He has gone into the Middle East. He instigated this Arab Spring initiative. You look at every country from Tunisia to Libya to Egypt to Syria to Iran to Iraq, and look at the fallout that has come because of this man. He's trying to put Muslim Brotherhood leaders in office, like in Egypt. We saw that with Morsi. He came out condemning the Egyptian government because they sentenced Morsi for, I can't remember how many years it was, but the Obama administration came out condemning them. Each has their own government. They're going to deal with terrorists like Morsi. We should let them. We are in a war on terrorism, although this administration would tell you otherwise.
Laurie, got about 3.5 minutes left. As we go into this campaign season, how are we going to keep Israel and our relationship with Israel a campaign issue?
Well, I think that is really going to be one of the issues that we're working on right now to educate citizens in states across the country is this boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement nationwide. You know, we just passed a resolution in Tennessee condemning this act, stating that BDS is no different than anti-Semitism. We had a Chief Justice in Israel who just said, who was quoted saying that BDS is political terrorism, and it absolutely is. And so I would encourage your listeners, if anyone in your listening audience or viewing audience would be willing to look at the possibility of introducing a resolution in their state legislature, PJTN stands ready to assist in navigating through the process. You don't have to have ever been a lobbyist to do this. It's simple. It's we the people acting in a capacity to let our government officials know how we feel about this. This is a great way to tackle the BDS or the Israel apartheid demonstrations and violence on our college campuses in our state, but it's also a great way to educate more Christians and people within the community about the threats that we are facing.
How did it go through Tennessee? What kind of numbers did you get on the vote?
It was just absolutely phenomenal, overwhelming. There were no dissenting votes in the House Senate, one dissenting vote in the House of Representatives. But the governor just signed it into law a couple days ago, so it's on the books, and we're very excited about it. In fact, we've heard from 11 states now who have taken on this issue, and they're going to introduce it to their state legislature. So we're going to give them a run for their money. The Students for Justice in Palestine and these other Muslim student association groups that are having these violent demonstrations and attacking not just Jewish students, Christian Zionist students on the campuses of our university. We're sending them a message. You can't get away with this anymore. It's our tax dollars, and it's the state. It's not the federal that controls the university system. It's our state legislatures. And that's why it's critically important. We bring the politics back to local. We let our elected officials know this is what we want. We don't want this type of environment on our campuses. And if these people are promoting hate speech, then their clubs need to be shut down.
That is terrific, because, I mean, the significance of that down into the classroom and into academic and even curriculum level is absolutely significant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we still got the textbook battle going on too, Perry.
Well, Laurie, you're terrific. Again, pjtn.org is the website. You can go there. Let me encourage you, if you haven't seen Israel Indivisible, let me encourage you to get a copy of that. You can get it through the website, take a look at it, and then share it with your friends. Have a group setting in your home and watch this together. It is very well done. And the best to you and your team as you go over and start the filming of the second one. I don't know when you hope to get this done, sometime next year?
Actually, we're planning on premiering it at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, February 23rd, 2016, and I know you'll be there, Perry.
Yes, of course. That's wonderful. Thank you, Laurie, for what you do. Blessings to you and your team, and keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you, too, Perry. God bless you.
God bless you. All right, let me encourage you again. The website is PJTN, and that's Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, pjtn.org. And if you haven't seen it, now we've aired it on the Dove, but if you haven't seen it, get a copy of Israel Indivisible and watch this DVD. It's terrific. Share it with your Sunday school class. I mean, there is something you just will knock the home run. Take it to your Sunday school class and share it there, share it at home, and get the word out. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.